We're starting a new series this morning. We're going to walk our way through the 23rd Psalm, which is one of the most famous passages in all the Bible. And the goal is just to go kind of line by line and look at the beauty and insight and inspiration that David has written in that beautiful psalm. But before I get into that, I want to read a passage from one of the great modern-day psalmists, Dr. Seuss, who wrote the great passage entitled Yertle the Turtle. I better put my glasses on for this. On the faraway island of Salamasand, Yertle the Turtle was king of the pond. It was a nice little pond. It was clean, it was neat. The water was warm, and there was plenty to eat. The turtles had everything turtles might need, and they were all happy. Quite happy indeed. They were until Yertle, the king of them all, decided the kingdom he ruled was too small. "I'm ruler," said Yertle, "of all that I see, but I don't see enough. That's the trouble with me. This throne that I sit on is too low down. I cannot look down on the places beyond. It ought to be higher," he said with a frown. "If I could sit high, how much greater I'd be. What a king! I'd be ruler of all that I see." And Yertle the Turtle King gave a command. He ordered 9 turtles to swim to his stone. And using these turtles, he built a new throne. He made each turtle stand on one another's back, and he piled them all up in a 9-turtle stack. And then Yertle climbed up. He sat down on the pile. What a wonderful view! He could see most a mile. "All mine," Yertle cried. "Oh, the things I now rule. I'm the king of a cow. I'm the king of a mule. I'm a king of a house, and what's more and beyond that, I'm the king of a blueberry bush and a cat. I'm Yertle the Turtle. Oh, marvelous me, for I am the ruler of all that I see." Isn't that beautiful? Well, what began as a nice life for all the turtles, they were living harmoniously, all happy in the nice pond. It was a warm water, plenty of food. Life was good until old Yertle, he wanted more, right? What he had was not enough for him. He got greedy and he lost perspective. We get into that mode from time to time, don't we? Maybe not that extreme, maybe not that obvious, but deep down in our hearts, if we're honest, we want a little more, don't we? Here's the insane reality of our situation. This is crazy. In comparison to the rest of the world, the entire rest of the world, if you make over $30,000 a year, you are in the top 5% of the richest people in the world. Isn't that crazy? We are among some of the wealthiest people in the world. So when you think about it from that perspective, when we compare ourselves to the rest of the 95%, when we compare ourselves to the rest of the 95% of the population, we should be the most contented people on the planet, right? But we don't look at it that way, do we? What do? We compare ourselves to the itty-bitty, tiny 1% of the richest people in the world. The richest of the rich. And we say, I want what they have. I don't want to be in the top 5%. I want to be in the top 1%. Without even knowing it, we fall into the grass is greener syndrome. We put our hands on our chin on top of the fence, and we gaze at the neighboring property, and we see how beautiful and green it is, and we think with a sigh, if I could just have what they have. If I could just keep up with them, everything would be okay. Some of us actually are bitter because, well, we once had it. We had good money. And somewhere down the line, for our generation, most likely, in most instances, it was in the Great Recession, this last downturn that we had, that we lost it. We lost the equity that we thought we had in our homes, our little nest egg. We lost our investment. And now we can't seem to accept the new normal of where we're at today because we can't get past what we once had. And it haunts us and it eats at us to the point that we can never have peace, never have real joy because we just have this bitterness about what we lost. Still, others of us want what we've never had. We experience it in the sense that we see it all around us. We see it on TV. We see it in wealthy neighborhoods. And we know we want it. We think if we could just get that one thing or make that certain amount of money, then I could just chill out and be happy for the rest of my life. But we can never say, I shall not want. Because we do. We do want. Maybe the problem is not that we have too much desire for the things of this world. But just maybe the thing is that we have too little desire for the things that have real meaning. The stuff that, granted, doesn't seem very sexy or exciting, and so we find ourselves always looking for something more or the next thing or something different. When the truth is that the simple things in this life that bear no price tag, those are the things that bring us true contentment and cause our hearts to overflow with joy. The psalmist describes it like this: the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Certainly one of the most quoted and beautiful verses in the entire Bible. Throughout history, the 23rd Psalm has calmed racing hearts, regardless of rich or poor. It has provided courage to those facing the worst of situations. It's given peace to those who are taking their final breath. It has comforted those who are experiencing the pain of grief or loss. For many, the words of this psalm are the last words that they will ever utter in this life. In fact, it was this exact psalm that I read to my own mother as she passed from this life to the next. Psalm 23 is remarkable because in its simplicity, we find hope and strength of faith. It's like this is the prayer that we say when we know we're not going to be able to make it on our own and we need something to hang on to, and this is what we read. King David, who wrote the Psalms, worked as a shepherd growing up, and so he knew what it means to be a shepherd and the incredible responsibility that it brings to care for his flock, making sure his sheep are protected and nourished and contented at all times. In other words, the shepherd provides for their every need, which is why David loves describing God as the great shepherd of our lives. Now, when you read those famous words, the Lord is my shepherd, you know. It means that God provides all that I need to the point that I am provided for. It means that I can have everything that I need if I can just allow God, if I can just find the strength to let God be the shepherd of my life. I may not have everything the world tempts me with. I may never have great wealth, but I shall not want. When you say, I shall not want, all of a sudden, you get a little freed up. Because when you say those words, you are declaring that I will not let my life be controlled by envy or jealousy. I will not allow myself to be entangled in the stuff of this world. I will not allow my life to be dictated by the grass is greener syndrome or keeping up with the Joneses. Always wanting more is a miserable way to live, and yet, to be honest, it's a way of life for most of us. The Apostle Paul said something in Philippians 4 that really resonates with me. He said, I've learned to be content in whatever circumstances I may find myself. I know what it feels like to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. And I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all of this through him who gives me strength, because my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of his glory in Christ Jesus. I love that. I shall not want believes that I can be content in whatever circumstances I find myself. I shall not want believes that I have enough. I shall not want believes that no matter how bad it gets, my God has my back and he will meet my needs. I believe that becoming a person who is content with what we have is the secret that we've all been looking for. Finding contentment is that thing we've been missing that will bring us a life of abundance and absolute joy. And I also believe that in order to become a contented person, there has to be a shift that occurs inside of us where we begin to desire the stuff of God more than the superficial stuff of this world. And Jesus says that that shift occurs when you do not store up for yourselves treasure on earth, where moths and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But instead, when you can store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal, for wherever your treasure is, there will your heart be also. In other words, wherever you spend your time, whatever it is that you are investing your life in, your time, your money, your priorities, whatever it is, we're investing our life in. That's where our heart is. And the issue for a lot of us is that somehow we've been led to believe that we should put our faith in that which we can see and touch, the tangible stuff of this world, because it's a whole lot safer than putting our faith in that which is unseen. I mean, what good is faith when you're trying to get the bills paid, right? But Jesus said so clearly, why would you invest in the stuff of this world when it is all eventually going to come to an end? Why wouldn't you put everything that you have? Why wouldn't you go all in with stuff that's going to last beyond the grave, the stuff that will last beyond this lifetime. There is a reason why the Bible talks about money so much. It's because nothing jacks us up more than the quest for money. And the Bible doesn't talk about money because God needs your money. I mean, this is where the idea of giving comes in. The offering time that we have every Sunday morning is designed by God that keeps our hearts in check. It's not so that the church can get at your money or that God needs your money or that anybody's trying to get at your money. It's a constant reminder that all that we work so hard for will not last. And in the end, will have no value. And so giving is the weekly practice of the letting go of the stuff that will not last. Every time we give our offering, whether it's in the form of cash or a check or online giving or you text that from the app, whatever it is, we are letting go of another little piece of this world. And giving like that helps us to let go of the things that seem so important to us now that it feels like we can't live without, to prepare us for that day when we have to let it all go. Because there will come a day when we all end up in the same place. And we won't be taking any of that stuff with us. The truth is that the more we're able to let go of this world, the more capacity we have to fill our lives with the stuff of God. The more we give away, the more we are freed up to be able to grow spiritually and to live the life that God has designed us to live. Believe it or not, as we grow in our relationship with God, so does our desire to give. Because it is a condition of where we're at spiritually, not economically. Because it's then we begin to understand what is truly important. And it doesn't matter whether we're going through hard times or we're going through a downturn or we're living in plenty. This idea of giving is something that we do faithfully in the good times and the bad because it is a test of our heart and a strengthening of our faith. That's why we are so adamant when we, during the offering time or any time we talk about giving, when we say that if your life has not been radically changed by Jesus, if you're not experiencing the grace of God and want to live your life for Him, then there is no reason to give, so do not give. We do not want your money. We would rather you not give than give for the wrong reasons because the offering is very clear in the Bible. This offering time is all about our heart, not about the money. But the opposite is also true, as we say. If you're in a relationship with God, and as we talked about a couple weeks ago, if you're not giving in such a way that's meaningful for you, then I would challenge your perspective because giving is very much a part of the Christian life. And so you have to ask yourself, am I holding on to the wrong stuff? That's why the Bible says that we're to be cheerful givers, because when we give, we understand that we're giving out of our gratitude for what God has done for us, His grace, His forgiveness. And so, more than anything, we just want to let go of another little piece of this world so that we can take on a little bit more of God and grow just a little bit stronger in our faith. And we can honestly say in that moment, I shall not want. I shall not want. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm all that either. Because there's times I want. There's times I want stuff. And there's times when I lose my perspective, and there's times when my priorities get out of whack. And I think that it is a daily struggle to maintain that kind of perspective that keeps us to the point that we're living a life of generosity where we always want to be able to let it go. It was ironic because just this week I was writing this message on a plane on my way to Houston, and I was sitting in a middle seat, and I was pretty ticked off about it, by the way. And and I'm sitting next to this elderly gentleman, and I'm trying to focus in on my message, and he's talking to the stewardess, and he's talking about how hungry he is, and he says that he would like to have a burger, please, until he finds out that a microwave burger on a plane costs $11. And he said, oh, well, I can't afford that. And he kind of sinks down in his seat. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like writing this thing about being a generous person. I know I can afford to buy this guy a stinking burger. And so I reach over and I hand the flight attendant my credit card and I buy my brother a really bad burger. And I know it was probably the worst burger that he's ever had in his life, but I promise you this, it was like I had just paid off his mortgage. I mean, this guy was like the happiest guy in the world, and he was like chatting me up, and he's like wanting to talk now and thank me the whole rest of Houston. I throw my laptop down, and there's nothing left I'm going to be able to do. I think, though, that when you have a perspective about money, where I'm not saying that we live in such a way that we're irresponsible with our finances, but I'm saying that when we can have that perspective where we have committed to live generously, where we're committed to just letting it go whenever you see that opportunity and living hands wide open, it changes everything. I mean, it changes your whole perspective on life. I mean, I am in a business that is constantly striving to get more and more and more, and being able to maintain that perspective is very difficult in that world, and I have to fight through it all the time, as I'm sure we all do. And when we do that, like when we really are living a life of generosity, like it doesn't make sense to anybody else. But in your heart, you know, because the Lord is my shepherd, I shall live generously. Generous living is all about getting freed up from the stuff of this world so that we can live freely in the life that God designed us to live. Well, I'm sure you've probably already all guessed that it didn't end well for old Yertle the turtle, king of Salamasand. For he got so greedy and built it up so high, he eventually fell off his high throne and plunk into the pond. And now they say, the great Yertle, that marvelous he, is now king of the mud, because now that's all he can see. And the turtles, of course, all the turtles are free, as turtles and maybe all creatures should be. What if we could just live freed up from all the stuff that holds us back, all the stuff that entangles us and causes us to get so bogged down in this world? Unfortunately, there's a little Yertle the turtle in all of us. And we get our eyes wanting more, and the truth is, it will never be enough. And when it's never enough, it never ends well. Jesus tells the story of, I'll call him Yertle the farmer. And Yertle the farmer had so much success. He had this huge year where he had so much grain that he didn't even know where to put it. And so he tore down his small barns and he built gigantic ones so that he'd have a place to store everything. This is what he had worked for all of his life, to get to this moment where he could just kick back, eat, drink, and be merry and enjoy the rest of the life. And because he refused to give his heart to God, It was all for nothing. Because the very day he made it, God shows up. And he says, man, you fool. You've worked this moment, you are going to die. And what has your life been all about? And Jesus said, that is the way it is with anyone who lays up treasure for himself here on earth and is not rich toward God. What are you invested in? What are you holding on to so tightly that you have the death grip on it? And what would you be clinging to tonight if you knew that this night would be your last night? How would you live differently? I have learned the secret of life is to be content with what I have and to not be enamored with what I don't. Hold loosely to the stuff of this world, but hold on tight to the stuff of God. When we can finally say, when we finally come to the point in our lives that we can say, the Lord is my shepherd, we find a whole new life where we can finally let go of all the things that we were so attached to in this world and cheerfully exchange those things for the things of God. And all of a sudden, when we do that, when we begin to desire the stuff of God more than the stuff of this earth, we find ourselves in a truly unique situation because for the very first time, we can say those words with all honesty. And we can say, I shall not want.